this is a presentation on the new solicitation 21535, Smart and Connected Communities. This, as Jamie said, is a solicitation that involves 4 directorates. And before we jump right in, we'll be talking for about 40 minutes. And the remainder of the time, 20 minutes or so, will be for Q&A. That said, we will also be manning the chat during the presentation, as Shannon said. So please go ahead and ask your questions in real time. If we don't get to it immediately, it may be that we will be answering it in the presentation later in the slides, but we'll try to get to as many questions as we can. You'll notice that today, a lot of our examples will be focused on education research, on learning and workforce development. That's because it is the Education and Human Resource Directorate that's hosting this webinar. We're encouraging more applicants from the Education and Human Resource Directorate foci, PIs who have this foci in mind: education research, learning, workforce development, broadening participation, etc., to apply to Smart and Connected Communities. So with that, I would like to introduce, well, I'm Ellen McCauley. I'm the program director. I'm a program director at the National Science Foundation. I am CASE's Cognizant Program Director. Today, I'm talking as a program director connected with Smart and Connected Communities. And so if you are looking to talk with someone, I am an appropriate person to email directly if you have an idea that relates to Smart and Connected Communities and a focus on education research, learning, broadening participation, and or workforce development. And with that, I turn it over to my colleague, Michal.
Hi, my name is Michal Zival. I'm also a program director at NSF in the Directorate for Computer and Information Science and Engineering in the Division of Computer and Network Systems. And I've been working on the Smart and Connected Communities program for about 3 years now. So hopefully we'll be able to answer your questions today.
And Monica Cardella, you're not on the slide, but you're going to be an important part of this process.
Hi, everyone. Monica Cardella, also program director. I work with Ellen in the Directorate for Education and Human Resources in the Division of Research on Learning in Formal and Informal Settings. I do not actually work with the Smart and Connected Communities program. However, I will be watching chat and especially answering questions that are more broadly about NSF policies and procedures. But as Ellen mentioned, she is a good person to contact later if you have follow-up questions about the program. I, on the other hand, am not as good of a person to contact since I don't work with the program.
Thank you, Monica, for joining us today. Okay, so we'll just jump right in. Who is involved with Smart and Connected Communities? As we've said, computer and information sciences and engineering, education and human resources, engineering, and the social, behavioral, and economic sciences of NSF. So 4 directorates. We also work across the federal government, the US federal government. You'll see the list there, along with private and international partners. We'll talk more about both of these a little bit later in the presentation. So as you look at this list of all the points of contact, you will notice a lot of program officers from SCIS and from engineering. You'll also see 1 program officer from EHR and 1 from social, behavioral, and economic sciences. That does not mean we're the only ones who are interested in working on this program. I am the point person for EHR, and then depending on your interest, we go to other program officers for expertise. The same with SBE. With engineering and SCIS, those program officers represent a range of the different programs and are highly involved in the program as well. So those are 2 names, doesn't mean we don't have a lot of interest from EHR and SBE. So let's do a quick overview. All right, so why are we all here today? What is a smart and connected community? One of the things I really like about NSF solicitations is we really try to be transparent about what the funding call is about. And in this case, there are 3 definitions crucial to seeing if your idea fits with the Smart and Connected Community solicitation. One is, are you working with communities? And communities are defined as geographically delineated, and they consist of various populations with the structure and the ability to engage in many meaningful ways in proposed research activities. So this geographically delineated boundary is not the case for all of our solicitations. It is the case for smart and connected communities. So what is a smart and connected community? So a smart and connected community synergistically integrates into intelligent communities with the natural and built environment. So the point here is intelligent technologies are integrated with the natural and built environment. And what do? They improve the social, economic, and environmental well-being of whom? Those that work, live, learn, or travel within it. Next, who are community stakeholders? So you'll notice that in the solicitation, at many points, it talks about equitable relationships or including people from the community and from the community stakeholders and the research community in leadership positions, recognize them in budget with meaningful contributions, etc. So who are these community stakeholders? You'll see the list: residents, neighborhoods, community groups, also nonprofit and philanthropic organizations, businesses, municipalities, and organizations such as libraries, museums, education institutions, public works department, health and social service agencies. So you'll see when we talk about communities, we're talking about a geographic boundary with many populations and stakeholders as a part of them.
So I'm going to give you a little bit more overview of the program. So the Smart and Connected Communities program aims to support youth-inspired, community-focused research. And what we mean by this is that we're looking for projects that are of clear relevance to communities. In fact, we encourage researchers to work together with community stakeholders to identify and define challenges that they're facing, and then enable those challenges to motivate research questions and inspire solutions to pilot together with communities. So as Ellen had said, the community stakeholders are broadly defined, but they generally fit into two categories. So the first being the residents or maybe neighborhood or community groups who would be directly impacted by the proposed project. And the second group are decision makers who work in the partnering institution, such as in the libraries, educational institutions, social service agencies, and so on. But keep in mind that the end goal of the project should positively impact people and not solely institutions. So that's really a key point here, is that we really want to benefit to people. The focus of the projects could be in any application area that's relevant to communities. So some of examples of these are in what we call the flower diagram that you see on the side here. And these include education, health and wellness, transportation, water management, emergency management, public safety, and any other area that would be relevant to communities. At the same time, we look for projects of multidisciplinary research teams interested in advancing fundamental technological and social science aspects of the defined problem statements. And the examples of these are what's listed in the center of the flower diagram, where it says the core areas. So this could be economics, AI and machine learning, education and workforce development, autonomy, psychology. And so we're really looking for advances both on the technological side and on the social science side together. And then the other aspect is that we're looking for projects that propose activities to pilot aspects of their solutions together with their identified community stakeholders. Importantly, the program is interested in projects that consider the sustainability of the research outcomes beyond the life of the project, including the scalability and the transferability of the proposed solution. So the other place at the bottom of this page, you can see here a link to the Smart and Connected Communities website. And we encourage you to visit that link. One of the items that you'll see on there is a list of all of the projects that have been funded in this program through 3 solicitations. And then at the top of the page, you will see a couple of videos that features that gives kind of an overview of the program, and also there's several of the researchers and community partners, which can really help give you even a better idea of the program.
So one of the things I really like about this slide is it indicates the breadth and range of types of projects that can be funded through the Smart and Connected Communities solicitation. And when you look at what has already been funded, this is a way to look at what's been done, but also a way of places to jump off from. Please do not look at these diagrams as, oh, we have to fit in and this is the proportion that NSF funds in each area. Absolutely not. This is to show that we are getting in a range of proposals that do deal with the application sectors and the research areas. And what we're asking you to do is look at these and say, okay, where can I push the boundaries? Where do I fit in? How would my proposal change what these diagrams, these pie charts look like? The one thing to remember is NSF cannot fund something that does not come in. So if you're saying, hey, my area isn't well enough represented, give us a proposal. If you're in an area that's well established, that's okay too. We're really looking for the high quality proposals that integrate the technology and the social aspects to benefit human life, the people in the communities, as well as the organizations. But as Mikael already said, primarily the. All right, so let's dive in to the solicitation. Funding and award types. The anticipated funding is almost $24 million, and that will be 20 to 30 awards. Now, we don't designate there's going to be X number of integrative research, grant one, planning grants, etc. It really depends on the quality of the grants that come in and how they are reviewed. So when you're thinking about what to apply for, please apply for the track that makes most sense for the type of project that you're doing and where you are in the life cycle of your project.
Okay, so we'll go through the different types of proposals that we're looking for this round of the solicitation. So the first group are the Integrative Research Grants, or IRGs. And these are the full awards for the program. So teams who propose integrative research grants should have projects that are well developed in terms of research concepts that will be addressed, an identified multidisciplinary team able to address those concepts, identified piloting activities that will be carried out as part of the research activities, and also well-developed partnerships with at least one community partner, along with specific stakeholders who will be involved in co-development of the project and carrying out the pilot activities. Of course, some of this can be embellished and changed over the course of the project, but a lot of this needs to be clearly defined within your proposal, since these are fairly large awards of either up to $1.5 million for track 2 and up to $2.5 million for track 1. And so the larger ones, the $2.5 million, are for up to 4 years, and the other one is for up to 3 years. And the difference over there between the tracks is really based on the amount of activities that you want to carry out and how quickly you can do it in some cases. Okay, so the next set are the planning grants. And the planning grants these are 1-year awards, and they're for project teams who have part of their project idea formed and who've identified community partners to some extent, but who need additional time to build out their research concepts and piloting activities, and probably also strengthen their partnerships. So for the most part, some research activities can be carried out, some preliminary activities can be carried out during this stage, but that's not really the primary purpose. It's really to flesh out the research idea and prepare you to propose a well-developed integrative research grant.
So it sounds like that being really clear about what your research idea is and how it is innovative and important for the community would be key there. Is that reasonable?
Yeah, so there's that aspect, and you definitely want to still show who your community partners who are going to be and the stakeholders. So the next project type is virtual organization. And this is new for this program. So we're looking to fund one virtual organization that would be supported for up to 3 years at a maximum of $250,000 per year. This organization could have several roles as a facilitator, including connecting teams across the already funded portfolio of projects, helping these teams to connect with the broader scientific community, including non-academic communities who would benefit from innovations developed in S&CC projects, such as municipal governments, nonprofits, industry. So maybe making consortia of those groups could be one aspect of it. And the virtual organization could also provide benefit to aspiring PIs. So for example, providing mechanisms for matchmaking between communities and research teams. It's really open to, we really want to see what kind of ideas come forward over here. And we have, a strong set of projects already in our portfolio. And so this is really the time to start doing that connection across the projects. So if you are interested in this category, then please feel free to reach out to us to speak with us further about this.
And actually, I would say reach out to Mikhail.
And another category that is new this year is a joint funding opportunity with Japan Science and Technology Agency. So in the previous solicitation, we did co-fund with them, but it was a series of planning grants. And here we're looking to co-fund several integrative research grants that would be in the track 2 category. So a maximum of 1.5 million with a maximum of 750,000 for the US team and the same for the Japanese team. And projects in this category must focus on either recovery from COVID-19 or future resilience planning, either related to pandemics or to other types of disasters. Something that's important to note in this category is that the proposed activities across the US and Japanese teams need to be presented as a clearly integrated set of activities. That's something that we see as important really in any kind of international partnership, that it's not just 2 separate projects, but they really help each other out and benefit each other. And for this also, feel free to reach out if you have questions for this category.
And that would be to you and to David Corman, probably?
Yes, so that's right. So really any of the program directors within the SIZE directorate could help. David Corman, who's the lead program director for Smart and Connected Communities, would be a great person as well to contact.
Thank you. Okay, so we're into the nitty gritty. If you all don't yet love the PAPPG, the proposal and award policies and procedures guide, this is your opportunity to get to know this document, because the Smart and Connected Community solicitation follows the PAPPG very closely. If you are new to the PAPPG or have been avoiding it, I would encourage you to look at the table of contents on the clickable version, the HTML version, because if you look at it in those terms, you look for what you're doing right now. So for example, if you're preparing the budget, read the budget section. If you're trying to figure out who can apply as a PI, look at the section that talks about PIs. It is a very well thought through document and provides a lot of detail. Hence, it's about 300 pages. If you want to read the whole document, more power to you. I've done it. I've loved it. But if you look at it as a step-by-step guide, it is probably most helpful for you in preparing your proposal. So as most solicitations are, and as described in the PAPPG, the Smart and Connected Communities proposal link that's 15 pages for integrative research grants and virtual organizations. It is 5 pages for planning grants. Again, 5 pages for those early concepts that you're working on and developing further. You can submit your proposal through the FastLane system, research.gov, or grants.gov. Now, the FastLane system is the tried and true system that is developed by NSF, and we are phasing it out for our newer system, research.gov. If you are using grants.gov, which is a pan-agency way to apply for NSF, please give yourself at least 2 additional days, because unlike the FastLane and the research.gov systems, which are directly built and connected to NSF, the grants.gov needs to do a transfer of your proposal from its platform to the FastLane research.gov system. And that takes a couple of days, and you are required to still get it into an NSF system by the grants deadline. In terms of multi-institutional proposals, this program only accepts lead institution submissions with subawards. So if you look and you say, hey, I want to do a collaborative research proposal, you are welcome to collaborate on your proposal, but it is not permitted to submit a collaborative research proposal. If you don't know what I'm talking about, look in the PAPPG. What you want to do is submit using a lead institution and subawards. Okay, and we'll talk more about letters of collaboration. We use the word collaboration in a lot of different ways at NSF. We want to be very specific. This is a lead institution using subawards, and later we'll talk about letters of collaboration, but collaborative proposals are not permitted in this solicitation. Okay, project personnel and partner institutions are required to have supplementary documents for all proposal types. Some additional submission considerations. There's a limit to how many proposals you can be on as a PI, co-PI, or senior personnel or consultant. That's 2. There are no restrictions on who may serve as PI, therefore you follow the PAPPG. There are no restrictions on the number of proposals per organization. Letters of collaboration are strongly encouraged for all proposal types. There is a template for letters of collaboration, which you can see in the PAPPG, and letters of collaboration are letters by partners, people you will be working with, or organizations you will be working with. They are not letters of support, which are folks saying, I really think this is a cool project. Letters of support are not permitted. Letters of collaboration from people and organizations who are participating are encouraged. So think about the institution that will be the lead submitter. And we say this in this regard: to receive federal grants money, you have to have a level of rigor in your financial in your organization's financial processes that you can get through the NSF pre-award review. We can include in the chat a link to the pre-award or CAR review component. But for example, if you are using QuickBooks, that will not pass muster in terms of being able to go through a rigorous review and accept federal money. So you may want to partner with an organization that has very rigorous financial practices. If you have questions about that, let us know. Also, start your submission early, especially if you have never submitted for an NSF, submitted an NSF proposal. You have to have individual NSF IDs and institutional IDs. It takes weeks. Just start early, you can get there. We don't want a deadline to be missed because the paperwork wasn't in. Okay, next. The solicitation is clear that there are several labeled sections that you need within your project description. So you have your project narrative, and if you're applying these types, you'll notice that you have to have these sections. And Mikhail is going to more thoroughly, but the point here is label these sections clearly in your narrative. Oh, it's me again. My apologies. Okay, so integrative research. This section is labeled integrative research in your narrative, and it will address the combined social and socio-technological aspects of smart and connected communities. And it will be very clear of how these solutions are being piloted with communities. So you see a list of possible social considerations and possible technological considerations. These will depend very much on the project you're designing. Now, one of the things that reviewers do look at, if you are saying, it has to do with equity. If you are saying that community members are an important part of your project and different community stakeholders, how are they represented in your leadership, in your budget, in your proposal overall? Have they been consulted? Are they an afterthought? So when you think about integrative research that has social and technological aspects, there is an alignment, there should be an alignment between who's participating in the various parts.
And I'll add just a couple more pieces about this. So this section of the project description is really the core of the intellectual merit component of the project description. And people will often ask us, how heavy does it need to, is this really supposed to be split between the technological side and the social sciences side? What's the balance over there? And all of that really depends on your project. The key here is that we're looking for activities that you wouldn't be submitting to other programs that maybe focus much more heavily on either the technological side or social side. And we're looking for projects that really bring those together. And that's part of what this program is enabling. The other aspect to consider here is that you do not, while we want to see social science research, we do not necessarily, you don't have to necessarily, check off a box of saying, I have this kind of researcher who's in this department and this one from that department. It's not, in this program, it's not really like that. We just want to see that there's expertise. The reviewers do look for expertise based on previous research if you don't necessarily come from a certain department. Okay, so we can go, okay, great. So the next one.
Okay, so I'm not going to read the slide to you. One of the questions that I've gotten is, well, is it really for education and learning research and workforce development? And yes, so I just pulled 4 bullet points from different parts of the solicitation that have examples that focus on workforce and learning, teaching and learning, career longevity and job satisfaction, lifelong learning, new skills, education research, equitable and inclusive distribution, formal and informal, and it goes on. So please recognize one of the reasons we're having this webinar is to encourage people from education research, learning, and workforce development to consider, are you doing a project that fits with this solicitation, and to encourage you to apply.
Okay, so the second section that needs to be labeled within the project description is the community engagement. And again, this is required in both the integrative research grants and the planning grants. And in this section, you want to define who the community is and reflect how the community will engage in meaningful ways with the proposed activities. The projects have to involve at least one community and working with stakeholders within that community. And as I mentioned before, these could be at different levels of again, kind of the decision maker level and the residence level. So you can think about that. Who are the right people to engage in your project? And it's important, again, I want to stress that the community partners at I guess, a mistake that we often see in people who are applying to the program for the first time is that they have the community partners being recipients of the research or subjects of the research, which is okay, but they should also play an active role in defining and refining the research activities and piloting activities. And the specific ways that those community partners will be involved should be described in this section. And it's also strongly encouraged to include letters of support from the partnering stakeholders. As Ellen mentioned before, there is a template for this, but in this program, we actually also encourage you to include additional details, and that is allowed here, of what specific activities those partners are going to be engaged with, and really show the strength of the partnership. So the management plan, actually, I'll say the next 3 sections are only required for the integrative research grants, so not for the planning grants. And so this section is the management plan, and the purpose of the management plan is to describe the specific roles of the different members of the team. This section is especially important because these projects involve what can be complex teams of researchers from across a range of disciplines who may or may not have worked together previously, and of course also community stakeholders. So we and the reviewers want to have a good sense of how your complex team plans to work collaboratively to carry out the proposed activities. Okay, and the evaluation plan section should clearly describe how your project will be evaluated throughout the duration of the award, and how this will help to inform, very importantly, how it will help to inform possible changes to the planned research and piloting activities. And the reviewers really do look at this section carefully and discuss what kind of metrics are being used in the evaluation. So in this section of scope and scale, we're looking to understand how your team determined the scale of the research and piloting design, and how that scale is, or why that scale is required in order to achieve the desired impact in the community, as well as provide a sufficient proof of concept to allow for transferability to other communities or scalability of your project. This section is especially important for the track 1 proposals. Those are the larger ones of up to $2.5 million, in helping the program understand your reasons for applying for an additional year with an additional budget. So you want to make sure that this section, this is not looking for you to repeat what you have in your budget justification, but really it's about the design of your project.
Okay, so some examples of smart and connected community projects that have been funded with a focus on education, learning, and workforce development. So this project is, I'm told that Scott may be on the project, so we'll ask him to talk a little bit later. But this project focuses on 2 rural communities, and it uses augmented reality to both engage in STEM learning challenges and discover emerging STEM careers in their community. So as you can see, it has all the components, and then it has an advisory team that are necessary to focus on a smart technology in a community to solve a local problem. The next example, it's in Evanston, Illinois, and it has an out-of-school time provider. It has YMCA, and it has an Office of Community Partnerships at a university. And it looks at new approaches to learning engagement through STEAM. And it looks at building out on some project work that has already been done. So in other words, your project does not have to start from scratch, but as long as it has that innovation continuing to build to improve the lives and welfare of people in the community, it can be appropriate. And finally, an example of youth living on a tribal reservation that are experiencing behavioral health disparities. This planning grant seeks to investigate the feasibility, so this is a planning grant, of socio-technology community-based behavioral health interventions that integrate various components. Again, you'll see the integration of different disciplines around a specific issue relevant to a specific community. So those are just three of a number of examples in the education, research, learning, and workforce development space. So when are the proposals due? They are due on February 24th, 2021 at 5 p.m. the local time. Make sure you remember local time. And also, if you use Fastlane or research.gov, there is a lot of compliance checking that goes on immediately. If you use grants.gov, first you need to get it in at least 48 hours in advance so it can be transferred over to the NSF systems. Also, not as much compliance checking is done, which means that there can be issues if you haven't gotten all the components in correctly.
Okay, so I'll just run through a few of the key reminders. One of them is to, most importantly, read the solicitation very, very carefully. All of the information that we're speaking about today is all in there in the solicitation in detail. And we also encourage you to visit the website that is listed over there, which is the same one that I mentioned earlier, so that you can see the abstracts of what's been already funded. And that way you won't propose a project that is identical to something that is already funded. And it can also give you an idea of what types of projects are maybe good fits for the program. The second reminder is to make sure that you focus on socio-technical research along with a clear concept for piloting your activities. While this is a more applied program, keep in mind that we are still the National Science Foundation, and so you need to have clearly identified discoveries that will be made. The third point is that you need to show deep community engagement, and the communities should help to inform the research and activities and not just be the subjects of the research. The next is that you want to think about the potential transferability or scalability of your project. So there's some aspects that certainly will be very place-based and unique to your project, and that's completely expected. But your solution should not be solely a point solution. There should be aspects of it that can clearly transfer to other communities, and make sure that you bring that out in the proposals. As we've said a few times, start early with the proposal submissions, especially if you are an individual or institution who has not previously submitted to NSF. Every solicitation, we have issues of people not being able to get their proposals in time, and it is very unfortunate. We try to work with people, but often we can't. So please just start early with your submission. And if you have an idea and you are not completely sure if it's a good fit for the program, we are always very happy to speak with prospective PIs. So feel free to contact any of the program directors with your concept. We'll show the list again on the next slide. And it's of course in the solicitation. We do like for you to send to us a short summary of your concept, and then we're happy to schedule a time to speak with you or your team. And this is especially encouraged for EHR focused projects. And here is that list again of the program contacts.
Okay, so we've already talked about communities, but we're going to talk about it just a moment more. Again, it's geographically delineated, and the proposer must define the community and how the community will engage meaningfully in the activities. And Nicole has also talked about it's not doing things to communities, but it's in partnership with communities. and at least one community is required. One community is required. It can be multiple communities. It depends on your project. This is not a plug and play solicitation, as I don't think we have any of those. But as you can see, it really depends on what your issue is and how you're approaching it. Okay, we've also talked about community stakeholders. Again, it can be almost any organization or in sets of individuals in the geographic area or the community. Again, residents, neighborhoods, nonprofits, municipal organizations, museums, education institutions, health and social services.
So this last question is about whether letters of collaboration have to be included in your proposal. So they are not required, but as we said before, they are strongly encouraged. And you can use the standard letter template, but it's also acceptable and pretty useful to customize the content as long as it's not an endorsement of the project. And this is really from the collaborators of the project. We want to see what the partners are doing and their level of engagement, and these letters can help the reviewers and us at NSF get a better sense of this beyond or in addition to what's written in your community engagement section within the project description.
So I want to jump in here. We use the term letter of support at one point. These are letters of collaboration. Letters of support are not permitted. Letters of support are, I really like this project. They're going to do a great job. I know all the participants. These are letters of collaboration. In other words, people who are involved directly with the project. They're not talking about it as a third party external to the project. Okay, that was our last slide. So there are a couple of comments that we always need to make. First, we've offered these webinars in order to help elucidate and make clearer the solicitation. However, the solicitation is the legal document. If there is a question between what we have said and the solicitation, always go with the solicitation. Also, the PAPPG is there to help you. So please use it to benefit your proposal writing and your submission.